Vivian Knight, a ruthless billionaire, heir to a fallen empire, who thought he controlled everything until the day he discovered his wife was paid to love him. Secrets, betrayal, and a past full of lies. Trust no one. Before the story begins, comment below which city you are watching from. Let's dive into the madness. Vivian Knight, a billionaire tycoon known for his ruthless business tactics, meets Emily, a charming and down-to-earth woman who works as an event planner at one of his luxurious parties. Intrigued by her simplicity amidst the high society chaos, Vivian is instantly drawn to her unique aura. Vivian couldn't shake off the thought of Emily even after the party ended. Unlike the usual gold diggers around him, she seemed different, uninterested in his wealth and genuinely kind. The next morning, from his glass-walled penthouse, Vivian instructed his assistant to find out everything about her. Meanwhile, Emily was back to her modest apartment, unaware that the billionaire she barely interacted with was now interested in her. She considered him just another arrogant rich guy, but by afternoon, she received an unexpected call, a personal invitation from Vivian Knight himself to plan an exclusive yacht party. Emily hesitated. Why would someone like him need her specifically? Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a game she never signed up for. Emily arrived at the marina, where Vivian's $50 million luxury yacht gleamed under the afternoon sun. Crew members welcomed her like royalty, making her feel out of place. Dressed simply, Emily felt the weight of high society's gaze, but she kept her composure. Vivian spotted her the moment she boarded. With his signature smirk, he approached. "Glad you accepted my invitation," he said smoothly, handing her a glass of champagne. "I'm just here for work," Emily replied sharply, trying to keep it professional. Vivian found her resistance intriguing. Most women melted in his presence, but she stood her ground. As the yacht sailed into open waters, Emily worked on finalizing the event details, while Vivian watched her like she was the only person on board. But deep down, Vivian wasn't just captivated by her beauty. He felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if Emily wasn't who she claimed to be. And for the first time in years, Vivian Knight felt out of control. The yacht cruise turned into a high-profile gathering, filled with influential businessmen and celebrities. Emily moved through the crowd, managing the arrangements flawlessly, but she couldn't shake Vivian's intense gaze following her every move. When the sun began to set, Vivian approached her again, this time with a softer tone. "Tell me something, Emily. Why does someone like you choose event planning over, say, espionage?" he teased, half joking but secretly testing her reaction. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Did he suspect something? But she played it cool. "Not everyone dreams of luxury, Mr. Knight. Some of us just work for a living," she replied, forcing a smile. Vivian chuckled, clearly amused. "Well, tonight, don't work too hard. Enjoy the view." But as night fell, and the yacht sparkled under the moonlight, Emily wasn't thinking about the view. She was thinking about the flash drive hidden in her purse, filled with data she was ordered to steal from Vivian Knight. What she didn't know was that Vivian already had someone tracking her every move. The game had officially begun. Back at his penthouse, Vivian poured himself a glass of whiskey, staring out at the glittering skyline. But his mind wasn't on the view. It was on Emily. Something about her didn't sit right. She was too perfect, too composed, and the way she avoided personal questions. Suspicious. He picked up his phone. "Logan, run a full background check on Emily Parker. I want to know everything. And I mean everything." Meanwhile, Emily returned to her small apartment. Closing the door behind her, she exhaled deeply, finally dropping the mask she wore all evening. She opened her laptop and connected the flash drive. Blueprints, financial records, confidential emails. She had everything her agency requested. But as the files uploaded, her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Why did she feel guilty? Why did Vivian's smile replay in her mind? "This is just a job," she whispered to herself. "Nothing more." Little did she know, both of them were setting traps for each other, and someone was bound to fall. The next morning, Vivian received Logan's report. He flipped through the documents, his sharp eyes scanning every detail. But to his surprise, Emily's record was spotless, almost too spotless. No digital footprint before 3 years ago, just a fabricated history. "She's hiding something," Vivian muttered. Nobody erases their past unless they have a reason. Determined to test her, he invited Emily to a private yacht party that evening. A gathering filled with influential figures, sharp minds, and hidden agendas. If Emily was playing a role, tonight would expose her. When Emily arrived, draped in an elegant, figure-hugging black gown, Vivian couldn't deny the way his heart skipped, but he forced himself to stay focused. "Welcome, Emily. Let's see how well you swim with sharks," he whispered under his breath. Throughout the night, Vivian watched her carefully. He introduced her to billionaires, politicians, and ruthless business tycoons, hoping someone would trigger a reaction or slip up. But Emily played her part flawlessly, charming everyone, smiling just enough, laughing at the right moments, offering mysterious answers that only deepened the intrigue. But behind her polished exterior, Emily felt the pressure, the constant questions, the subtle tests. She knew Vivian suspected her. As the yacht drifted under the moonlit sky, their eyes met from across the deck. It was a silent battle. Who would break first? And in that moment, neither of them realized. They were already falling into a game far bigger than either had planned. The night air on the yacht was crisp as Vivian approached Emily, his gaze calculated but undeniably drawn to her. "You've impressed everyone tonight," he said smoothly, handing her a glass of champagne. "But I'm curious. Where exactly did you learn to handle high society so effortlessly?" Emily met his stare without flinching, her lips curling into a practiced smile. "Observing people teaches you more than any expensive education, Mr. Knight." Her cryptic answer only fueled his suspicions, but before he could press further, Logan discreetly pulled Vivian aside. "We dug deeper," Logan whispered. "She's using an alias. Emily Carter doesn't exist before 3 years ago. Her past is locked tighter than Fort Knox." Vivian's jaw tensed. "And no mistakes tonight?" "None. She's either a seasoned pro or dangerously good at lying." Vivian glanced back at Emily, who now stood alone, gazing out at the shimmering waves. For a brief moment, she looked vulnerable, almost like someone running from something. What if she wasn't the predator, but the prey? Later that night, as the yacht docked, Vivian offered to drive her home. The car ride was silent, tension hanging thick between them. When they arrived, Emily turned to him, her voice soft but firm. "Whatever you're looking for, Vivian, I promise you won't find it." Vivian leaned closer, his voice low. "Oh, I will. Everyone has secrets, Emily. The only question is, how dangerous are yours?" As she stepped out of the car and disappeared into the night, Vivian realized this was no longer about business. This was personal, and he wasn't stopping until he uncovered everything. Vivian couldn't sleep that night. Emily's final words echoed in his mind. So confident, so certain he wouldn't find the truth. But Vivian Knight wasn't a man who gave up easily. The next morning, he called Logan into his office. "I want her tailed 24/7. I want to know where she goes, who she meets, and what she's hiding. Spare no expense." Logan nodded. "Consider it done." Meanwhile, Emily was already 2 steps ahead. She met quietly with a man in a secluded cafe on the outskirts of the city. "You're getting sloppy," the man warned her, sliding a file across the table. "If Knight finds out who you really are, it's over." Emily clenched her jaw. "I didn't come this far to fail now. I just need a little more time." Back at Knight Enterprises, Vivian was reviewing the first set of surveillance photos. He studied the grainy images of Emily laughing over coffee with a stranger. "Who the hell is this guy?" Vivian muttered under his breath. Logan checked the database. Nothing on record. "It's like he doesn't exist." Vivian leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "She's running some kind of game, and I'm going to end it." Later that evening, Vivian confronted Emily at one of the high society galas. He approached her with that signature smirk, masking the storm beneath. "You're quite the enigma, Mrs. Knight. Coffee dates with ghosts? Strange friends from nowhere?" He whispered in her ear as they danced. Emily smiled sweetly. "Or maybe you're just looking too hard, Vivian." He tightened his grip on her waist, his voice low and dangerous. "Or maybe I'm about to find exactly what I'm looking for." For the first time, a flicker of fear flashed in Emily's eyes, and Vivian knew. He was getting closer. Vivian couldn't get the image out of his mind. The mystery man sitting across from Emily, the way she looked over her shoulder as if expecting someone to follow. It was no longer just suspicion. It was war. The next morning, he ordered Logan, "Dig deeper. I want to know who she was before Emily Knight. Every name, every address, every lie." Meanwhile, Emily felt the walls closing in. The agency warned her to stay low, but with Vivian's eyes constantly watching, she knew her time was running out. She stood on the balcony of the mansion that night, staring at the city lights, wondering how everything spiraled out of control. Marrying Vivian had been part of the mission, but falling for him? That was never supposed to happen. Behind her, Vivian's voice cut through the silence. Strange how secrets always come out in the end. She turned, masking her panic with a soft smile. "Why are you always so dramatic?" Vivian stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "Because I know you're lying to me. And trust me, Emily, I always find out the truth." For a moment, she considered confessing everything. About the agency, the mission, the lies. But what would happen if she did? Instead, she kissed him, slow and deep, hoping to distract him from the storm brewing beneath their perfect facade. But as they parted, Vivian whispered in her ear, "Nice try. But I'm not that easy to fool." Little did Emily know, Vivian had already booked a flight. By morning, he'd be in the small European town where Emily's file said she grew up. And if she was lying about that, this marriage would end in ways neither of them could predict. Vivian's private jet sliced through the dawn sky, leaving behind the glittering skyline of New York as he headed straight for the small, quiet European town listed in Emily's past records. He sat back in his leather seat, staring out the window, replaying every moment of their marriage. The late-night phone calls she always stepped away for, the trips she took without notice, the guarded look in her eyes whenever he asked about her past. This is it. he muttered. No more guessing games. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Emily woke up alone. She instantly felt the void beside her in the bed and knew something was wrong. Vivian never left without telling her. Panic crept up her spine. She dialed Logan's number, knowing he'd spill if Vivian was up to something. Where did he go? She asked, forcing her voice to stay calm. Logan paused. I think you already know. Emily's heart pounded. If Vivian uncovered the truth about her fabricated identity, everything would collapse. Her marriage, her cover, and worst of all, the fragile love that had begun to grow between them. By the time Vivian landed, the pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. The house she supposedly grew up in, abandoned. The family she claimed raised her, non-existent. Every document, every story she told, it was all a well-crafted lie. Back in New York, Emily stared out the window, knowing there wasn't much time left. By tonight, Vivian would return with answers, and once he did, their entire world would shatter. Still, Emily knew one thing for sure. If she was going down, she'd protect her real secret at all costs. Because this wasn't just about love anymore. This was survival. Vivian stormed back into the mansion just past midnight, his face a mask of cold fury. Emily, waiting in the grand living room, stood up as soon as she heard his footsteps echo through the marble hallway. Their eyes met. His gaze was razor sharp, and she instantly knew. He had found out. Where do you want to start, Emily? Vivian asked, his voice dangerously calm. Or should I say, whatever your real name is? Her throat went dry. Vivian, I can explain. Explain? He laughed bitterly, tossing a folder onto the coffee table. Photos spilled out. Images of her in places she never told him about, with people he'd never met. Government officials, secret meetings, alternate IDs. You married me under a false identity, he said, his voice rising. The woman I fell in love with doesn't even exist. Emily clenched her hands to stop them from shaking. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I was sent on a mission. Falling for you wasn't part of the plan. Vivian paced the room, running a hand through his hair. So the entire time, every kiss, every promise, it was all fake. No. Emily stepped closer. It started as an assignment, yes, but I swear, Vivian, somewhere along the way, it became real. He scoffed. Real? You were paid to love me. Silence filled the room like a thick fog. I risked everything to be with you, she whispered, her voice breaking. You think I'm proud of what I did? But I couldn't walk away. From you. Vivian's jaw clenched. And now? What else are you hiding? Who are you really working for? Emily looked down, knowing the next truth would either save them or destroy them completely. Vivian, it's bigger than you think. And if you're not careful, you'll end up in danger too. He shook his head. I trusted you. I thought you were the one person who'd never lie to me. Tears welled up in her eyes. And I thought I could protect you from this. But now, it's too late. For the first time, Vivian realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. The night felt endless. Vivian sat alone in his study, swirling a glass of whiskey, his mind spiraling. Emily was asleep, or pretending to be, in the guest bedroom, and the distance between them felt like an entire universe. He couldn't shake the images of the confidential files, the alternate passports, the code names. His wife wasn't just a liar. She was living an entirely different life beneath the surface. By morning, he made a decision. He dialed a private number. Logan, I need you to dig up everything on Emily Knight. Full background. No limits. Logan, his most trusted security chief, didn't ask questions. Consider it done, sir. Hours later, Logan arrived at the mansion with a thick dossier. Vivian flipped through it, page by page, his heart sinking deeper with every revelation. Emily had been embedded in his life for over 2 years before their accidental meeting. Everything had been orchestrated: the gala, their first dinner, the spontaneous trip to Paris. None of it was fate. It was all part of her mission. But why? Why him? Just as his mind was unraveling, Emily entered the study quietly. "You had me investigated," she said softly, her eyes lingering on the open file. "You left me no choice," Vivian replied coldly. "You need to tell me everything, Emily. No more secrets. Who sent you? Why me? What were you after?" She took a deep breath. "At first, it was your company. Knight Enterprises has technology that certain people want control over. But once I got close to you, things changed. I tried to protect you from them." He scoffed. "Protect me? You were the threat." The real danger is still out there, Vivian. You think you know betrayal? You haven't even seen the beginning of it." Vivian leaned back, observing her carefully. "Then prove it. Help me find who's behind this." Emily's gaze hardened. "If we do this, there's no going back." "Good," Vivian said, standing up. "Because I'm done playing games." And just like that, enemies became reluctant allies, both fueled by secrets, lies, and a love neither of them fully understood anymore. But there was one thing Vivian knew for sure. The real fight was just beginning. The morning sun barely crept through the grand windows as Vivian and Emily sat across from each other at the massive dining table. The silence between them wasn't just awkward, it was dangerous. Vivian's mind was spinning, replaying Emily's confession from the night before. "So," Vivian finally spoke, his voice cold and sharp. "If I believe you, we're both targets now?" Emily nodded, pushing her untouched coffee aside. "Yes. The people I worked for, once they realize I've gone rogue, they won't just come for me. They'll come for you. For Knight Enterprises. For everything." Vivian leaned back in his chair, his calculating gaze narrowing. "Then we hit first." Emily arched a brow. "You're not scared?" He scoffed. "I didn't build an empire by being scared. I built it by staying 3 moves ahead." For the first time in days, Emily allowed herself a small smile. "Then you'll need to trust me. I know how these people operate. I can help." Vivian wasn't sure if trust was possible anymore, but if there was one thing he understood, it was strategy. And right now, Emily, spy or not, was his only shot at staying alive. "Fine," he said. "We work together. But the second you cross me again, Emily, I won't hesitate." Understood. By midday, the plan was in motion. Vivian's tech team set up encrypted channels. Private security doubled at the mansion, and Emily began decoding the files she'd stolen from her former employers. Files that detailed the next phases of their operation, including the takeovers of several major corporations. Vivian scanned the documents. "They weren't just after me. They're trying to control the entire industry." "Exactly," Emily said. "And if we don't stop them now, they will." For the first time, Vivian realized the stakes were bigger than his broken marriage, or the betrayal that tore him apart. This was war. And in war, you don't survive by playing nice. Vivian stood, adjusting his tailored suit, his expression hard as steel. "Get ready. Tonight we make our first move." Emily met his gaze. "Together?" "For now," Vivian replied. "Together." But deep down, Neither of them knew if this fragile alliance would last, or who would betray who first. As night fell over the city, the night estate transformed into an operations hub. Vivian's private security team ran silent drills, sweeping the perimeter while his tech experts intercepted encrypted messages from the same shadow organization that had once controlled Emily. In the war room, Vivian stood before a digital map projected onto the wall. Their next target is Redwood Corp. If they take it down, they'll cripple half the supply chain on the East Coast. Emily, seated beside him, zoomed in on the blueprint of Redwood's headquarters. They'll strike during tomorrow's charity gala. High-profile event, minimal suspicion. Vivian ran a hand through his hair, his jaw clenched. And I was supposed to be there. Perfect cover. Emily leaned in, her voice low. Which means we use it to our advantage. We set the trap. But I need full control of your security detail. Vivian narrowed his gaze. You really think I'm going to hand over my men to the woman who lied to me for years? You want to survive, don't you? Emily shot back. These people play dirty. I know their methods. You don't. The tension between them crackled like static. For a moment, Vivian almost admired her boldness. Almost. He exhaled slowly. Fine. But I'm watching your every move. As they prepared for the gala, Vivian's mind drifted to the woman he once thought he knew. How many nights had they spent together, wrapped in luxury and laughter? How many of those moments had been real? One last thing, Vivian said, stopping Emily as she headed toward the armory. After this, what happens to us? Emily paused, her back still to him. If we survive, maybe you'll finally understand why I did what I did. Vivian didn't know whether to feel comforted or terrified by that answer. But tomorrow night, everything would come to light. And either they'd win or lose everything. The night of the charity gala arrived, bringing with it an air of elegance and danger. Redwood Corp's headquarters was bathed in golden lights, and high society elites filled the grand hall, dressed in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. To the untrained eye, it was just another luxurious event, but Vivian knew better. From the moment he stepped out of his black Rolls-Royce, his senses were heightened. Emily walked beside him, stunning in a deep emerald gown that revealed just enough to distract, yet practical enough to conceal a weapon. You clean up well, Vivian remarked sarcastically as they approached the entrance. She smirked. Better to look the part if we're going to catch their attention. Inside, Vivian's security team blended into the crowd, earpieces in place, eyes constantly scanning. But Emily led the strategy tonight. Every corner of the room was monitored. Every exit was covered. The target will make contact within the hour, Emily whispered, sipping champagne while pretending to laugh at one of Vivian's jokes. Stay calm. Follow my lead. Vivian hated taking orders, especially from her. But he knew this was her world. Espionage, deceit, shadows, she thrived in it. Halfway through the evening, a man in a crisp gray suit approached them. Middle-aged, sharp eyes, and an unsettling calmness. Mr. Knight, the man greeted smoothly. And Mrs. Knight, or should I say, Agent Rose? Vivian stiffened. Do I know you? You will soon enough. The man slid a small device into Emily's hand. Your move, darling. Before Vivian could react, the man disappeared into the crowd. Emily's face turned pale. That's a detonator. They're threatening to take down the entire building if I don't comply. Vivian's heart pounded. Tell me you have a plan. Emily looked up at him, determination flashing in her eyes. We stop them. Together. For the first time, Vivian realized how deep he was in. This wasn't just about lies anymore. This was about survival, and the clock was ticking. Vivian and Emily moved swiftly to a secluded corner of the gala hall, away from curious eyes and listening ears. Vivian's jaw was clenched so tight it ached. "What the hell is going on?" he hissed. "How many enemies have you made?" Emily's voice was low and urgent. "Not enemies, just unfinished business. And if we don't act fast, this building is going to be a graveyard." Vivian ran a hand through his hair, trying to process. They wouldn't dare, not here. Not with this many high-profile guests. Emily shook her head. They would. They thrive on chaos. That device he handed me? It's a trigger. But it's also a bluff. At least I think it is. We have minutes to figure it out. Vivian's gaze swept the room. Laughter, champagne, cameras flashing. None of the guests had a clue their lives hung by a thread. "Tell me what to do," Vivian said. Emily's eyes met his, a glint of pride flashing there despite the danger. "We split up. You secure the exits, alert your team, but quietly. We can't cause a panic. I'll try to locate the bomb if it exists. The device has a tracker linked to it. I can follow the signal. And if you're wrong, if they detonate before we find it, then this might be our last dance," Emily whispered, managing a wry smile. Vivian grabbed her hand, squeezing it tight. "You're not dying on me tonight." "Same goes for you, Billionaire." As they parted ways, Vivian gave his head of security discreet orders. Emergency protocols were activated under the guise of routine checks. Meanwhile, Emily weaved through the gala, her phone synced to the device, scanning for the signal. The blip led her toward the lower levels of the building. Vivian watched from above as Emily disappeared down a staircase. The thought of her walking into danger alone gnawed at him. For the first time in years, Vivian realized this wasn't just business. He couldn't lose her. Not now. Not after everything. And as the music played on, the real game had only just begun. The soft echo of her heels against the marble staircase was the only sound Emily could hear as she descended into the dimly lit service corridors below the gala. The tracking signal on her phone pulsed faster, signaling she was getting closer. Behind her, the sounds of the party faded, replaced by an eerie silence that made her heart pound. If this bomb was real, it had to be down here, hidden away from the crowd. Vivian, meanwhile, watched her from the balcony, his stomach twisted in knots. Every instinct told him to follow her, but he knew she needed space to work. Still, he wasn't just going to stand there. "Double the guards at all exits," Vivian ordered his security chief over the earpiece. "No one leaves, no one enters, and keep it quiet. The last thing we need is panic." "Yes, sir," the man replied. Back in the basement, Emily finally stopped in front of a large utility room. The signal was strongest here. She took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the hum of machinery filled the air, but in the corner, hidden behind stacked crates, sat a small black case. Her pulse spiked. She carefully approached, scanned for any traps, and opened it. Empty. Her heart dropped. "What the—" Suddenly, the device in her hand beeped loudly. "Nice try," a voice echoed from a speaker embedded inside the case. "But this isn't where the fun ends. Check your husband's office if you want to play the next round." Emily's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about the gala. This was personal. They were targeting Vivian directly. She sprinted back upstairs, finding Vivian by the bar, his eyes locked on her the second she appeared. "Well?" he demanded. "It was a decoy," she panted. But the real threat, it's in your office. Vivian's expression darkened. My office? That's inside my home. They're one step ahead of us. We need to leave. Now. Without another word, Vivian signaled his team, covering their exit under the excuse of an urgent family matter. But as they hurried out of the gala and into the night, neither of them knew just how deep this danger really ran. And back in Vivian's office, someone was already waiting. The sleek black car sped through the dark streets of New York, Vivian gripping the steering wheel tighter than ever. Emily sat beside him, her phone clutched in her hands as she monitored any incoming signals. The air inside the car was thick with tension. Whoever is behind this isn't just playing games anymore, Emily muttered. They want you shaken. They want us running. Vivian's jaw tightened. And they've succeeded. For now. As they approached his towering penthouse, Vivian's private security had already locked down the perimeter. Armed guards stood on high alert, and the building's entrances were secured. But none of it made him feel safe. Not anymore. Inside the penthouse, the atmosphere was eerily quiet. The city lights shimmered through the massive glass windows, but the only thing Vivian cared about was reaching his office. Emily led the way, her senses heightened as she scanned every corner. If they've planted something, it won't be obvious. These kinds of people, they're subtle, precise. Vivian unlocked his office door. The moment they stepped inside, Emily's device beeped. There's something here, she whispered. They both scanned the room. Nothing looked out of place. The same leather chairs, the same glass desk, the same family portrait of Vivian's late parents, until Emily spotted a faint red light blinking beneath the desk. There, she pointed. Vivian moved closer, pulling out a small device taped discreetly to the underside of his desk. Emily carefully examined it. It's not a bomb. It's a listening device. Vivian cursed under his breath. They've been hearing everything. Emily nodded. And if they planted this, who knows what else they've accessed? Your business meetings, your calls, your emails. Vivian's mind raced. Everything confidential, every deal, every secret, all compromised. Emily disconnected the device and dropped it into a signal-blocking bag. We need to find out how it got in here and who placed it. But there's something worse. Vivian turned to her. Worse? She held up her phone, showing him an encrypted message that had just appeared. You're getting warmer? But the real secret is who's sitting beside you. Vivian's eyes shifted to Emily. For the first time, doubt flickered in his gaze. Vivian stared at the message on Emily's phone, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. The real secret is who's sitting beside you. For a split second, the woman he had trusted, who had risked her life to save his, now felt like a complete stranger. Emily noticed the shift in his eyes and immediately raised her hands. Vivian, don't. This is exactly what they want. To turn us against each other. But the seed of doubt was already planted. Then explain to me how they knew you were here? How do they know every move we make? Emily took a deep breath. Because I used to work for them. Vivian froze. What? I was part of the same organization that's after you. But I left, years ago. I changed my identity, cut all ties, and started a new life. But clearly, they never let me go. Vivian's mind spun. His entire world was built on control, power, and knowing every detail. But now, he realized there were entire chapters of this story he hadn't even read. So, all this time, you've been hiding from them. Yes, Emily admitted. And when I met you, I thought I was finally free. But the second you started getting close to the truth, they came back. Vivian stepped back, running a hand through his hair. You should have told me. I thought I could protect you without dragging you into my past. A heavy silence filled the room. Then Vivian's phone buzzed again. Another message. Time's almost up. Trust the wrong person and you lose everything. Vivian looked at Emily, uncertainty shadowing his features. Then let's find out if you're really on my side. Emily met his gaze without flinching. Name the test. I'll prove it. Vivian smirked slightly, masking the chaos inside him. Good, because we're going to end this. But from now on, I trust no one. And just like that, the line between ally and enemy blurred. Vivian and Emily boarded his private jet under the cover of night, heading to a secluded island where one of Vivian's most trusted contacts, Marcus, resided. If there was anyone who could help unravel the tangled web of lies, it was him. Throughout the flight, tension thickened the air. Vivian sat across from Emily, his gaze cold and unreadable. Every glance at her reminded him of the betrayal, the secrets, the life she lived before him. Emily finally broke the silence. Vivian, I know you're doubting me, but believe me, if I wanted to hurt you, I've had endless chances. Vivian leaned back, swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand. Maybe, or maybe this is just part of your plan. Getting close, earning my trust, destroying me from within. She sighed, frustration flashing across her face. I left that world behind. Everything I've done with you has been real. Before Vivian could respond, his phone lit up. Another anonymous message. The island isn't safe. Marcus has been compromised. Vivian's jaw clenched. Great. Now even my oldest friend might be against me. Emily leaned forward. Vivian, they're playing us both. They want you isolated, paranoid, alone. That's how they'll win. Vivian looked at her, his mind racing. Then we flip the game. She raised an eyebrow. How? We feed them false information, set a trap. But to do that, I have to know if I can trust you completely. Emily stared into his eyes. Test me. I won't fail. Vivian nodded slowly. Good. Because from this moment forward, there's no turning back. We either expose the truth together, or we both go down. As the jet began its descent, Vivian felt a dangerous clarity settling in. The war had officially begun, and the first battle would be on that island. The moment the jet touched down on the island, Vivian and Emily moved with precision. The night was eerily quiet, the air heavy with suspicion. Marcus's mansion loomed in the distance, its lights glowing softly, but something felt off. Stay close, Vivian ordered, his hand instinctively resting on the small of Emily's back as they moved through the darkness. Inside, Marcus greeted them with his usual charm, but Vivian saw right through it. His friend's smile was too wide, his demeanor forced. Vivian, Emily, what a surprise, Marcus said, pouring drinks as if they were on a vacation, not running from potential assassins. Vivian didn't touch the glass. Cut the act, Marcus. Who got to you? Who got... Marcus's smile faltered for just a second before recovering. I don't know what you mean. Emily stepped forward, her voice calm but sharp. Vivian received a message, said you were compromised, so either you start talking or we assume the worst. Marcus set his glass down, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, I didn't want to betray you, but they made it clear. They know everything, Vivian. About the companies, the accounts, your movements. They've been watching you for months. Vivian's blood ran cold. Who are they? Marcus glanced at Emily, then back to Vivian. The same people she used to work for. Emily's face paled. That's impossible. I cut ties years ago. Marcus shook his head. Apparently they never cut ties with you. Silence filled the room. For the first time, Vivian felt the full weight of the danger pressing in from all sides. Betrayal from friends, lies from the past, and enemies he couldn't even see. Vivian turned to Emily. We can't stay here. Pack whatever you can. We're leaving now. As they hurried out, Marcus called after them. Vivian, they're coming for you. And this time, they won't miss. Vivian didn't look back. Let them try. Because now, this wasn't just about survival. It was about revenge. The island's private dock was cloaked in darkness as Vivian and Emily made their way to the speedboat. The tension between them was thick, neither speaking, both processing Marcus's warning. The organization Emily once served wasn't just watching, they were hunting. As they boarded the boat, Vivian started the engine, the quiet hum of the motor slicing through the night. Emily sat beside him, her hands gripping the edge, her thoughts clearly racing. Why didn't you tell me everything? Vivian finally broke the silence, his voice low but firm. If you knew they were this powerful, why did you think we could outrun them? Emily sighed, looking out over the black waves. I thought I had left it all behind. When I met you, I swore to myself I'd never go back to that life. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I stayed hidden, they'd forget about me. Vivian's jaw clenched. They didn't forget. And now we're both targets. For a moment, all that could be heard was the crashing of the waves against the boat. Then Emily turned to him, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Fear. They don't stop, Vivian. They don't forgive. And if Marcus is right, they're closer than we think. Vivian reached over, taking her hand in his. Then we hit first. She blinked. What? We've been running too long. I'm done hiding. If they want to fight, we give them one. But this time, we play on our terms. A flash of surprise crossed her face, but it quickly turned into determination. You don't know what you're up against. Vivian smirked. Maybe not. But they don't know what it looks like when I protect what's mine. As the boat sped toward the mainland, Vivian's mind was already working. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about taking down an empire. And with Emily by his side, he was ready to start a war. By the time they reached the mainland, Vivian had already made several encrypted calls. His private security team, one of the best in the world, was mobilizing. But this wasn't just about bodyguards or safe houses anymore. This was about dismantling the threat from the inside out. As they climbed into a waiting black SUV, Emily glanced at him. Who did you call? Vivian's gaze remained focused ahead. People who owe me favors. People who can find ghosts in the system. If this organization is as powerful as you say, we won't survive just by running. We'll cut off their resources, track their movements, and expose them. They've stayed hidden too long. Emily looked skeptical. It's not that easy. They have layers, fronts. Every move we make, they're 3 steps ahead. Vivian smirked slightly. Then we'll make moves they can't predict. The SUV pulled up to one of Vivian's lesser-known properties, a high-tech operations center disguised as a luxury penthouse. Inside, monitors lined the walls, each connected to global surveillance feeds and encrypted networks. Vivian's team was already waiting. Status? Vivian asked as they entered. A tall man in a sharp suit stepped forward. We're tracking unusual activity on your accounts, sir. Someone's probing for weaknesses. Could be them. Vivian exchanged a look with Emily. It started. Emily walked to one of the monitors, scanning the data. This isn't just probing. They're preparing to lock you out, financially ruin you before they strike physically. Vivian leaned against the table, his mind racing. Then we hit first. Emily turned to him, surprise flashing across her face. How? Vivian's eyes hardened. By taking down their funding. You said they moved through shell corporations, right? I have people who can trace those. We choke them out, dollar by dollar. Emily's lips curved into a faint smile. You're more dangerous than I thought. Vivian stepped closer to her. And now you're on my side. Imagine what we can do together. For the first time in days, a glimmer of hope sparked between them. But they both knew this was just the beginning. The real war was about to begin. Within hours, Vivian's elite team had uncovered a trail, a series of offshore accounts linked to the organization funding Emily's missions. Every transaction, every wire transfer, was a breadcrumb leading back to the people pulling the strings. Inside the penthouse, the atmosphere was electric. Screens displayed account numbers, false business names, and coded communications. Vivian stood at the center, orchestrating the takedown like a maestro. They thought they could bleed me dry, Vivian said, his voice calm but lethal. Let's see how they handle losing a few billion overnight. Emily, seated beside him, couldn't help but admire his control. This wasn't just some rich man flaunting his power. This was a man who'd built his empire from scratch and wasn't about to let anyone tear it down. But there was one problem. They'll know it's you, Emily warned, her eyes scanning the data feeds. The moment you touch their money, they'll retaliate. Vivian smirked. Good, let them come. Just then, one of the security leads rushed into the room. Sir, we've intercepted communication from their side. They've put a bounty on Emily's head. $500,000 for anyone who can bring her in alive. Emily paled. They're accelerating the timeline. They won't just come after me. They'll come after anyone close to us. Vivian clenched his jaw. Then we don't give them the chance. He turned to his team. Activate lockdown protocols. Move my family to safe houses, and get me a direct line to the media. Emily blinked in surprise. The media? Vivian's grin was cold. You want to dismantle an underground empire? You drag them into the light? Let's expose them for what they are. Emily leaned back, impressed beyond words. I've been running from them for years, and you're planning to end them in a week. Vivian met her gaze. No more running. Not for you. Not for me. And just like that, the hunted were becoming the hunters. Vivian wasted no time. By morning, the world's biggest media outlets were buzzing. Headlines splashed across every major network. Exposé. Billionaire Vivian Knight takes on secret criminal syndicate. Emily watched the broadcast from the safety of the penthouse's secure room, her heart racing. You're really making this public? She asked, her voice trembling between fear and awe. Vivian stood before the camera, perfectly composed in his tailored suit. For too long, he said, his voice steady and captivating. Hidden organizations have manipulated lives from the shadows. Today I say enough. We have evidence. We have names. And we're not afraid. The footage included redacted documents and audio recordings his team had decrypted, proof of money laundering, bribery, and criminal activity tied directly to the people who had been using Emily as their pawn. Social media exploded. People rallied behind Vivian. Hashtags trended worldwide. But behind the scenes, things were getting dangerous. Later that night, as Vivian and Emily reviewed the next steps, His phone buzzed with an encrypted alert. He read the message and looked up. "They've moved against our European accounts," Vivian said. "They're trying to freeze my assets. This is war now." Emily's hand touched his. "I never wanted you dragged into this." Vivian shook his head. "You're not dragging me anywhere. I'm exactly where I want to be." But before they could strategize their counterattack, a call came through from his head of security. "Sir, we've just spotted a team outside, armed. They're not press. We need to evacuate immediately." Emily's breath hitched. "They're here already?" Vivian's expression hardened. "Let them come." He turned to Emily, his eyes fierce. "No more hiding. Tonight we end this." The fight was no longer just about survival. It was about justice, revenge, and protecting the woman who had once been sent to betray him, but had now become the only thing he couldn't live without. The night was tense. Helicopters hovered above the estate, and Vivian's private security team was already on high alert. Floodlights illuminated the mansion grounds as armed guards patrolled every corner. Emily stood by the window, watching the shadows move beyond the gates. "They're serious, Vivian. They won't stop until they destroy us." Vivian adjusted his cufflinks, his face calm but deadly focused. "Let them try. They underestimated me once. They won't make that mistake again." Moments later, the head of security entered. "Sir, they've breached the perimeter. We have approximately 5 minutes before they reach the main house." Vivian glanced at Emily. "We're leaving through the underground garage. You'll head to the safe house. I'll hold them off." Emily shook her head, panic flashing in her eyes. "No, I'm not leaving you. I won't run while you fight alone." Vivian stepped closer, cupping her face. "This is not the time to be stubborn. If anything happens to you, none of this matters." But before Emily could protest further, a loud explosion rocked the estate. The power flickered, and Vivian's team scrambled into action. "Go!" Vivian barked, pulling Emily toward the hidden elevator. "I'll meet you at the safe house. Trust me." The elevator descended into the basement, and as soon as they reached the garage, 2 armored vehicles waited. Vivian's men escorted Emily into one while Vivian stayed back, giving final orders. As Emily's vehicle sped away, tears welled up in her eyes. Through the rear window, she caught a last glimpse of Vivian standing tall, fearless, as armed attackers stormed the grounds. She whispered under her breath, "Please be safe." Meanwhile, Vivian prepared for the confrontation. He wasn't just defending his home. He was sending a message to everyone who thought they could manipulate his life. If they wanted a war, they were about to get one. Emily's heart pounded as the armored vehicle raced through the dark, winding roads, leaving the chaos of the mansion behind. She clutched her phone tightly, praying for a call or message from Vivian, but the screen remained silent. Every passing second felt like an eternity. "Drive faster," she urged the driver, her voice trembling. "We can't leave him behind." Meanwhile, back at the estate, Vivian led his men with strategic precision. He was no ordinary billionaire. His past had prepared him for nights like this. In the shadows of high society, he'd learned that money wasn't just power. Survival was. Gunfire echoed through the halls as intruders forced their way inside. Vivian moved swiftly, taking down anyone who dared to cross his path. "Protect the vault! Don't let them near the evidence!" he commanded. Because this wasn't just a random attack. Vivian knew exactly who was behind it. Someone from Emily's past. Someone who didn't want the truth about her mission exposed. As smoke filled the air and alarms blared, Vivian finally made his way to his private office. Hidden behind a painting was a secure server containing files that could end entire empires and possibly expose the real reason Emily had been planted in his life. But just as he retrieved the hard drive, a familiar voice stopped him cold. "Hand it over, Vivian." He turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. "You," he hissed. Standing in the doorway was Richard Hale, a powerful rival who had always wanted to see Vivian fall. "This isn't just about her anymore," Richard sneered. "This is about you losing everything." Vivian smirked. "Then come and take it." And with that, the final showdown began. Miles away, Emily's phone finally buzzed. It was a message from Vivian. "No matter what happens, I trust you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Turn the car around," she ordered. "I'm not leaving him." The car screeched as Emily ordered the driver to make a sharp U-turn. Fear gripped her chest, but the thought of leaving Vivian behind was unbearable. "Step on it," she yelled, her heart racing. She couldn't abandon the man who had become her everything, not after all they'd been through. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, chaos raged on. Vivian ducked behind his mahogany desk, exchanging gunfire with Richard Hale's men. He was outnumbered, but not outsmarted. His mind worked faster than his enemies, calculating every move with precision. "You really thought you could destroy me in my own house?" Vivian shouted. Richard laughed from across the room, his weapon aimed directly at Vivian. "This isn't just your house anymore, Knight. You lost the moment you trusted her." Vivian clenched his jaw. Richard was trying to twist the knife. He wanted Vivian to doubt Emily in his final moments. But Vivian knew better now. "You're wrong," Vivian growled. "She's the only reason I'm still standing." Before Richard could respond, a loud crash interrupted them. The front doors burst open, and Emily stormed inside, a gun in hand, fire blazing in her eyes. "Get away from him!" she screamed. Richard turned in shock. "Well, look who decided to join the party," he smirked, aiming his gun toward Emily. But Vivian was faster. With one clean shot, he hit Richard's hand, sending the gun flying across the floor. "Nobody touches her," Vivian snarled. Emily rushed to his side, her hands trembling as they touched his face. "I couldn't leave you," she whispered. Vivian pulled her close. "We're finishing this together, finishing this." Richard, clutching his wounded hand, glared at them. "You think this is over? The truth is bigger than both of you." Vivian didn't flinch. "Maybe, but tonight, we survive." They stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. But neither of them realized the biggest secret of all hadn't been revealed yet. The dust had barely settled when sirens blared in the distance. Police cars swarmed the estate, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow over the chaos. Richard Hale was dragged away by officers, his threats echoing through the night. "This isn't over, Knight. You have no idea what's coming," Richard shouted as they forced him into the back of a squad car. Vivian kept his arm tightly wrapped around Emily. For the first time in what felt like forever, they had survived the storm together. But Richard's final words gnawed at the edges of Vivian's mind. "What do you think he meant?" Emily asked softly, her head resting against his shoulder as they watched the authorities clean up the mess. Vivian exhaled slowly, his gaze distant. "I don't know, but I have a feeling the secrets run deeper than we thought." Just as they were about to head inside to regroup, Vivian's phone buzzed. It was an encrypted message from an unknown number. He opened it carefully, his eyes scanning the chilling words. "The woman you trust is still lying to you." His blood ran cold. Emily noticed the change in his expression immediately. "Vivian, what's wrong?" For a moment, he thought about hiding it, pretending they had finally reached their happy ending, but they had come too far for more lies. He handed her the phone. "Explain this." Emily's face paled. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Vivian's heart pounded. "Emily, tell me it's not true." She swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "Vivian, there's something I never told you." The ground beneath him felt like it was disappearing all over again. "What is it?" he asked, barely above a whisper. Emily took a deep breath, her voice shaking. "I thought I left that life behind. But there's one final secret, and if I don't tell you now, it could destroy everything." Vivian stared at her, his heart torn between love and doubt. "Then tell me," he said. "No more lies. I need to know everything." And as Emily opened her mouth to reveal the truth, neither of them realized the biggest betrayal was still yet to come. The night had turned eerily silent as Emily led Vivian into his private study, ensuring they were alone. She paced nervously while Vivian leaned against the desk, arms crossed, watching her closely. The weight of the encrypted message loomed between them like a dark cloud. Emily finally stopped pacing and looked at him with glassy eyes. "Vivian, before I met you, I wasn't just any spy. I was assigned to protect you, not expose you, but there was one last mission I never completed." Vivian's brows furrowed. "What mission?" She hesitated, wringing her hands. "Your father's death. It wasn't an accident, and I was supposed to keep the evidence from ever reaching you." Vivian's heart dropped. "What are you saying, Emily?" She took a deep breath. "Your father discovered a massive corruption network within his own company. Before he could expose it, someone ordered his death. And the organization I worked for, we were meant to cover it up. But I couldn't do it, Vivian. I couldn't hurt you. So I destroyed the files. I thought burying the truth would keep you safe." Vivian felt as if the ground beneath him had shattered. "All these years, I thought it was a random accident." Emily nodded tearfully. "It wasn't. And Richard was just the puppet. The real person behind it is someone even closer." Vivian's breath hitched. "Who?" Emily wiped her tears, her voice trembling. "Vivian, it's someone within your board of directors. Someone who's been orchestrating everything from the shadows, and they're still watching us." Just then, Vivian's phone buzzed again, another encrypted message. This time it read, "You're getting too close. Stop digging or lose everything." Vivian's jaw tightened. "Then we dig deeper." Emily's eyes met his, a spark of determination flashing through the fear. "Together?" He nodded firmly. "Together." For the first time, the lies between them were gone. But the danger ahead, it had just begun. The rain poured relentlessly over the Knight estate as Vivian and Emily sat together in his office, their minds racing. Every piece of the puzzle was falling into place, and the final thread was about to unravel. Vivian called an emergency board meeting at midnight, a move only a madman or a man desperate for truth would make. Emily stood by his side, her presence both his shield and his sword. Inside the grand boardroom, the most powerful members of Knight Enterprises sat in confusion, some exchanging nervous glances. Vivian stood at the head of the table, his gaze locked on one man, Charles Bennett, his late father's oldest friend and most trusted advisor. Vivian didn't waste time. "I know what you did." Charles smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Careful with accusations, Vivian. Those are dangerous words." Emily placed a small device on the table, pressing play. An audio recording filled the room. Charles's voice from years ago, ordering the hit on Vivian's father and discussing cover-ups with external agents. Gasps echoed across the room. The truth hit like a bomb. Charles's smile faded, and panic flashed in his eyes. "You have no idea what you're getting into." Vivian stepped closer. "No, Charles. You have no idea what I'm willing to do for justice." Security entered the room, arresting Charles as he struggled, shouting threats that no one listened to anymore. As dawn broke, the storm outside began to clear. Vivian and Emily stood on the balcony, watching the first light spill over the city skyline. "You finally did it," Emily whispered. "Your father can rest in peace." Vivian turned to her, his gaze soft. "We did it. And now, maybe we can finally start over." Emily smiled faintly. "Do you think people like us get second chances?" Vivian took her hand in his, pressing it gently to his heart. "We make our own chances." Behind them, the empire his father built stood stronger than ever, no longer shadowed by lies. And for the first time in years, Vivian felt free. Free to love, free to trust, and free to live the life that was stolen from him. And with Emily by his side, the future was theirs to rewrite.